Hello and welcome back to Austin's Nerdy Things. Last video was how to install macOS Monterey in a Proxmox 7 virtual machine. Today we will wrap up with how to make the OpenCore install permanent, along with a couple other housekeeping tasks such as the auto boot and things like that. So if you haven't yet, I would recommend going back to let's see, how to install macOS Proxmox 7. Nick Sherlock's blog is where the original instructions came from, and I turned it into a video. So this is a long ad. I don't have ad blockers installed yet on here, so okay, so this is the video that I originally went through and created. I do appreciate all the likes and subscribes and views that you guys have given. So we will be picking up basically where this video left off. At the end of this video we have a working install. And so to go back to Nick Sherlock's blog, where I finished up was talking about how there is the first boot, it works, and it will be sluggish as the system performs housekeeping tasks. So with that, let's go ahead and make the OpenCore install permanent. So it says here that we are currently booting using OpenCore from the attached OpenCore ISO. Let's install that to the hard drive instead. Pop open the terminal and run disk util list to see what drives we have available. Okay, so here's the terminal, disk util list. And so we have 3 different disks here. I did detach the recovery media in Nick's screenshot here. That is disk 2, it looks like. So I don't have that disk. So okay, so here we are going to use sudo dd. It's basically as low level as it gets for writing disk content, to copy the EFI partition from OpenCore CD and overwrite the EFI on the hard disk. So the OpenCore CD is the small disk, about 150 megabytes, and so for us, that EFI 157 megabytes, that's going to be the source. It's disk 2, and the main hard disk is the one with the large Apple APFS container on it, which the main in our instance here is disk 0. And so in Nick's case, they ended up being called disk 1 and disk 0. In our case, it is disk 2 and disk 0. And so note here that if you get these names wrong, you will overwrite the wrong disk and you will have to start the installation over again. So here is my Proxmox that is running this macOS. I did take a backup. So VMID 100 is my macOS Monterey. And what I did is I went to backup and I hit backup now, and so this was done, I don't know, 40 minutes ago. But I do have a full backup ready to restore in case something goes wrong. I recommend you do the same. Okay, so we will do sudo dd if is input file /dev /disk 2s1, and we get that identifier right here. And then OF is the output file, is equal to /dev /disk 0s1. So we'll be overwriting this EFI right here, disk 0s1. All right, enter. Got to put in my password for the sudo, and I'm gonna cross my fingers. I have not actually done this yet, so we'll see how it goes. All right, we've got records in, we've got records out. Let's see, that one at 19 megabytes per second, not super fast. Okay, all right, so now shut down the VM. I guess I gotta put this, that is not it. Okay. I currently have this open in the browser within the virtual machine, so I need to, if we're going to be rebooting, bring this over. Okay, so let's see here. Now shut down the VM and remove both the OpenCore and the Monterey install drives. Okay, so we are going to shut this down. and I'm just using the basic QEMU screen console here. It works fine for these types of things. Okay, so it is shut down. Now we remove both the, let's pop this over here, pop this over here. This does kind of drive me crazy how the text ends up getting smaller or bigger, so I have to scroll up and down every time I resize this. Okay, so to hardware, now we need to remove the OpenCore, which is this one that he said is about 150 megabytes. So we're going to detach that. And I already removed the install media. Okay, so on the options tab, edit the boot order to place VirtIO disk 0 as first. So I do have that there. I'm going to just disable the net boot because we're never going to use that. Okay, boot up. If everything went well, you should see the OpenCore boot menu. All right, let's start. Yes. All right, if everything went well, you should see the OpenCore boot menu, and you can select your main disk to boot Monterey. Okay, so let's make this console big again. All right, so here we are. So it looks like everything went well. We do have this is the OpenCore bootloader. So if you hit enter on main, you get a Apple logo and a progress bar. So I think that is working as expected. Sleep management. I don't know if I ever had this virtual machine go to sleep. I don't use this as a daily driver. Nick does. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, next up, editing your OpenCore/EFI settings. Let's bring this back up in the Mac virtual machine so I don't have to keep going back and forth. But we are going to hop back into the disk list util. There's a full screen mode here. I don't typically use it. So yeah, this is this is a VNC. This is a browser window, full screen on my Windows desktop, showing the MacOS virtual machine. So there's also a scale to fit, I believe. How does this work exactly? I'm trying to remember. There we go. Okay, so now it's all compressed down to the size of the window, which is not the full 1920 by 1080 resolution, but it's pretty close, just a little squished. All right, so let's bring up Safari again. All right, installing macOS 7 on Monterey. Let's see here. We were somewhere near here. Okay, editing your OpenCore/EFI settings. All right, so we're gonna check out our disks again, and then we're gonna mount one. So disk util lists. All right, so now we only have 2 disks. One is the main partition. I think the other is the EFI. Yeah. All right. So check the identifier of your EFI partition in the terminal. So here the identifier is disk 0S1. And so what we're going to do here is we can mount it with, first we have to make the directory we want to mount it to, and then we actually mount it. So let's do sudo make directory /volume/EFI. And then we will sudo mount -t is the type, ms-dos is the actual type here, /dev/disk 0s1 and then this is where we created the directory. Okay, so let's see what's in here. ls volumes /EFI is another folder called EFI. Okay, so now we got the boot and the OC. OC is of course OpenCore. So now you can edit volumes, EFI, OC / I think Nick's actually missing a, or am I missing an extra EFI folder here? Either way, you can edit it with your favorite text editor. Let's see if I can go find that. So I had fun trying to get an app going there. If any of you caught that name, there's a joke with one of my friends. So, all right, we're trying to go to volumes, EFI. Yeah, I will readily admit I am not the best at using Mac, the operating system. Okay, so we can open up the config.plist with Xcode. It does say there's some dedicated plist editors available, such as Xcode, and I do have Xcode installed here. So let's see what came up. Okay, looks like this is our config.plist. Okay, so it's open. You can also do it from the Proxmox host instead. I did not attempt this yet. I haven't actually attempted any of this yet. Alright, so we do want to do automatic boot. Okay, so in config.plist you can set miss boot timeout to a non-zero value. So let's set this to like 5. And then I think I just save it, right? Save. Okay. And it says you can set the default boot option by pressing Control-Enter on it. And you can also do the verbose boot with Command V. Alright, so now let's reboot and see what happens here. And yes, I will reopen the windows. Alright, let's see what happens here. Either a 5-second timeout, or I need to do that. Okay. Oh, looks like it's going. Okay, so that rebooted fully successfully. All it took was editing the MISC boot timeout value. I set to 5. You know, typically don't like these timeouts to be super fast. Linux has like grub and the system deboot stuff. I think the default's like either 3 or 5. 1 I would not recommend in case you do want to change something up in the boot. I'm not sure how much there is to change for Mac. Okay, so it looks like this disappeared probably because our EFI partition got unmounted. So I just ran mount, which shows things that are currently mounted, and it does look like our OpenCore EFI stuff got unmounted, which is fine. We don't need it anymore. To make those permanent, you do have to do a bit more work when you mount it in the first place. All right, let's see what else we have here. Verbose boot, we don't need. Screen resolution is fine. It looks like this is also edited in the config.plist. Video performance, yeah, so this, like I said, I'm just doing this from the QEMU stuff. Yeah, let me show you how to do that. So, you know, here's the Proxmox interface. You know, here's all my stuff running. I have the VM ID 100, which is, of course, my MacOS operating system highlighted. So you just go to console. Here's fit to this thing version of it. So you can see if I scroll, it makes it smaller or bigger. You can also click console up here, which will do the same thing. And then I do recommend hitting the gear auto resize off, scaling mode off. Maybe it is local scaling. Yeah, local scaling. All right, so this is typically, if I don't want to be fully zenned out in the zone, this is how I run it. Alternatively, let me just grab my IP address real quick, is the VNC stuff. All right, so it looks like we're at .131, 10.98.1.131. All right, so VNC viewer, this is the other way to do it. I think it's a little bit more performant. You know, it's kind of, this mouse is flying around here, so you know, I do think it is a little bit more performant. So how to do this is you go to settings and then screen sharing. Let's see, so settings, share screen sharing. There we go. So yeah, it's under the sharings. For screen sharing, you check that box. Make sure the screen sharing is on, so you can use it with VNC at whatever this host name is, or you can do it with, I guess you can do it with Finder if you have another Mac, or you can just do it by IP address like I did. Allow access for administrators is the default, and if you only have one user on your Mac, we didn't set up anything extra. The one user will be a member of the administrators group. So this is now in the VNC viewer, which also has full screen. So this is now the full screen in the VNC viewer. If I am doing coding in Xcode, I will typically use the VNC viewer. If I'm just messing around, then I will typically just use the Proxmox QEMU console. All right, Nick talks about doing the pass-through with the video card. I do not have any compatible video cards, or I would show you guys how to do that. I do have an older Radeon. It's like an R5 something. It came out of a Dell desktop workstation kind of thing. I also have a RX 470, which is apparently one generation before the main compatibility ones. Or it's either one generation before or one model lower than what's required. Like the RX 570 and the RX 580 are apparently the ones to use. You know what? Let's see how much these are now. With crypto prices down a little bit. Alright, so we want to do ending soonest. Alright, so these $200 minimum here, broken. This one's 124 for a 4 GB, which is fine. We're not mining Ethereum here, so we don't need 8 GB. We only is that really? There is no... Okay, I am not used to Safari on the desktop. I did not expect that to... Of course it's a link, but it doesn't actually look like a link. There's no underline. Huh. This is why I don't use Mac OS as my daily driver. So yeah, it looks like I could probably get one for... I could definitely get one for less than 200. It's probably going to be 150, 160, 170-ish. It's kind of a little much to just... throw on a video card that I don't really have a full-time use for, but if there's enough demand, I can do that and demonstrate the pass-through of the GPU and essentially turn it into a daily driver. There's also USB pass-through, which is pretty easy. Let's see if I have any USB devices here. Okay, we got the wrong thing selected. Hardware, add USB device. So yeah, like I've got a USB SATA bridge, then you just hit add. I'm not going to do this because this currently holds 2 6TB hard drives that I use in the ZFS pool. But essentially you can either pass through a full port, or you can pass through a specific vendor / device ID, and then it appears natively in the virtual machine. And so Nick does this manually. And by manually, I mean via the command line. You can just do it within the Proxmox interface. It's pretty straightforward. Odd core counts, I did mention this. Fixing guest boots to UEFI shell. We did not have this problem. Alright, so the other thing here is the iServices. I have not gotten into this yet. I'm not going to try and freestyle it here on this video. Basically, you have to generate serial numbers and stuff to match the type of Mac that it thinks it is. And so, this one here, just doing iMac Pro 1. I do not know any of these off the top of my head. So there's, it looks like this one is for Mac specific. Let me just try and download this. I've done this once before. All right, to install, we're gonna clone some Git stuff here. Now we're gonna change directory into it. Then we're gonna make it be executable. .command, and then run with either /dot, or sorry, // not /dot. That's a classic news site for those of you old enough to remember. Mac serial not found. Okay, well I guess we need to install update Mac serial. Alright, so let's see here. Let's generate one of these guys. Yeah, okay, so we just generated for a MacBook 1,1, which is not what this is. It's some sort of a Mac Pro. I thought I would read about it. Let me try this one more time. Okay, Gen SM BIOS. List current. Let's try that. 6. Okay, so it thinks it's a iMac Pro 1. And this is essentially what we've got running with on my Mac here. So the valid possibly is one of the things you look for, but sorry, let me back up. The goal here is to generate a valid combination of serial numbers and board serial numbers. And so this is kind of just going over what we just did. This Gen SM BIOS thing installed Mac serial for us. And then you generate a MAC address that has to start with these guys. You can make up the last 3 octets, although this is certainly not enough for all Mac. So, what I'm getting at is this is 3 octets of 256 combinations each. So, is there a calculator? There's got to be a calculator. Calculator. Okay, so that's 256 times 256 times 256 for the 3 different octets is 16.7 million different combinations, and Apple has certainly created more than 16 million devices. So I don't know if MAC addresses are supposed to be unique. Maybe it's just organizationally unique, but that doesn't seem like enough. So either way, you're supposed to make up a MAC address. It starts with these things, generate the UUID, and then toss these all into a config.p list that'll look something like this. We just had that listed out here. Let's see. So we've got MLB, is this thing. We've got a ROM value, spoof vendor. Maybe it doesn't need that because this is already in the spoofed section. System product name, iMac Pro 1,1. System serial number is this thing. UUID is this thing. And then what you're supposed to do is go to a coverage page, and you know what, we're gonna try this. Copy, because I always forget if it's Control or Alt. And then we're gonna enter the code and hit continue. And so this might actually work. I wonder if this is a default one. Okay, now enter the serial into the coverage page. You will get one of 3 responses: a valid purchase date. But it says the last one is what we're after, as we want something genuine but not currently in use. So okay, so that means this is in use, which means that I would need to generate the stuff and go through this procedure. So basically, yeah, what you do is you generate serial numbers and you test them on this page. Hope you don't get IP blocked or banned or throttled or anything like that. So what you want is a screen that looks like this, not with the check mark, but with the purchase date not validated, because to Apple it appears that that is a valid serial number according to whatever algorithm they use, but it has not actually been purchased yet. Ours shows that it is valid, which means that this is from Apple's perspective, by all means, a already legitimate, configured, bought, in use Mac, which is not what we want. So it would basically say, hey, I'm a duplicate. and that does not happen with real Mac hardware. So that's where you go with this, and then once you do have a combination that's good, you stick that in your config.p list and go with it. So do check this note here. Checking too many serials can result in you being rate limited. To bypass this limitation, you can try cleaning your cookies, changing your IP. Apple's smarter than that. Changing your IP would work, cleaning your cookies would not. And then there's also this EN0, which is how you make the iMessage work. It's essentially faking the network adapter to make it look like it is built in. So EN0 is going to be a wired Ethernet configuration, and you have to change. You have to go find where it is, which is what's the PCI device, and then go to your config.p list and then add built-in with a type of 01. And so that should be all you need to essentially have a fully workable Mac. Hackintosh, I should say. It's not really a Mac. It's Mac software, not Mac hardware. So there's a lot to cover here. This video is already getting a bit longer than I would like. So we did go ahead and make it auto boot, cleaned that stuff up. It boots automatically now, and went through the procedure for how to do the post install stuff for OpenCore. And you also do need to verify NV RAM, which would be non-volatile random access memory, because it looks like the iMessage keys and such are stored in NV RAM. And so there's a section here for how to verify if it works or not. There's also some instructions on how to clean out old attempts at getting set up. Essentially, this just deletes a whole bunch of preferences and cached stuff. Same with clearing out your Apple ID. I do have an Apple ID that I logged in with on this Hackintosh that is not my daily driver, so I don't really care too much if it gets banned or whatever. And the very last portion of this says, well mate, you've done it. You've blacklisted your Apple ID. The fix is simple but not pretty. You must call Apple. And so they do say that having a payment card and some purchases helps. You can think of an Apple ID as a credit score, where the better Apple customer you are, the more likely you won't have activation issues. So it kind of makes sense. I do have a card on mine. I haven't tried to activate iMessage yet because I don't, it's not my main. So I haven't worried too much about it, but I will work on going through generating the serials and getting that stuff all configured from the next video. So okay, well, that brings us to the end of the part 2 of this video. Part 3, if you guys would like, is generating the serials and checking those, and getting all the information into the config.p list. So let me know if you would like to see that, and I will go ahead and make that if there's enough interest. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please also click subscribe, and we will see you again next time. Alright, thanks for watching.